Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 20 of IP&O from home. We are, of course, as always, live from the couch in my room. Today, we have a special guest, and that's Ellen Leibowitz, who is a music undergrad advisor. Hey, Ellen, thanks for coming on and joining us today.
Sure thing. Happy to be here.
So, on our last episode, we had on Barbara Bender, who worked a lot with graduate students, but you obviously work with undergraduate students. So
Yeah.
kind of one thing we're curious about is how has undergraduate education had to change and adapt for the fall semester?
Wow. I mean, in so many ways, certainly academically with, students who may prefer to have face-to-face class experiences now have to do everything remotely. That's huge. And the technology aspect. So for professors, it's a matter of degree about how much technological expertise they may have had and how much they had to learn and what kind of equipment they have at home. Some instructors were much more adept than others, and that presented challenges. And then, of course, with the students, did they have the right equipment at home? Did they have a laptop? Did they have a microphone? And everything else they need. Oh, and their internet connection is huge. We had some students who, really struggled because their internet was going in and out, and they, because of where they were located at home, their internet access was limited in some ways. So academic, technological, and then the social, I think, is huge. The students who, let's face it, undergraduate experience is about living in a dorm or living with your buds in off-campus housing. And that's a really important part of the undergraduate experience. I think, in particular, I feel for the students who are starting this year, the incoming first year or transfer students, who aren't getting to experience that. They've been looking forward to leaving home and being independent and living on their own. And there they are in their rooms on a computer, trying to figure out how to work everything. So there's the residential, but then there's also all the social activities, the clubs, and the organizations and all the things to get involved with on campus. And just, meeting up with your friends in the dining halls, meeting up with your friends in all the different buildings and lounges and studying together. And then also with the academic, I could go on and on. It's very challenging. More on the academic is the opportunities to get in-person, face-to-face tutoring, the learning centers, the writing program, and the support that they give to the students who are struggling with expository writing, the infamous expository writing. So yeah, I think lots of challenges and lots of changes this semester, and I hope we'll be back before long. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, specifically as it relates to music, right? With, obviously some of the theory classes and stuff, they could be a little bit easier taught online, but getting that face-to-face instruction without having that ability, what's that been like, and how have you had to advise students on how to handle that?
Quite challenging. Our program, of course, relies heavily on performance. Every undergraduate, every Bachelor of Music student is required to play in an ensemble every semester, whether it's orchestra or a band, and those aren't happening this semester. So the directors of those groups, the choirs, the bands, the orchestras, they're offering alternate opportunities for students. So instead of having on-campus rehearsals 2 or 3 times a week, they're approaching it more academically this semester. So they're learning about literature, they're learning about how to audition for orchestral jobs. They're learning about, putting together their resumes as performers. They're learning about how to get and keep performing gigs. So it's really changed a lot. So we're not doing ensembles. Chamber groups aren't meeting. There's other courses that undergraduates have to take, like oral skills, ear training, that obviously works much better when you're in person.
Believe that.
Yeah, and then the other thing is one-on-one lessons. So all of our students get a weekly lesson with faculty, and that's in their studios, face to face, and it's I can assure you an entirely different experience to be doing that. Either on, some of them are doing it with Zoom or WebEx, some of them are doing FaceTime. So it's both having the right equipment to do that, but also just an entirely different experience having a voice lesson or a trumpet lesson via your computer or your phone rather than in person. The other thing about lessons is that our students are assigned, each studio is assigned an accompanist who attends their lesson. And when they're playing, there's my dog barking, sorry about that. When they're playing in their lesson, they have a piano accompanist with them, or they usually do. And so what we've done is we've had the department accompanist record all of the accompanying, and it's just not the same. It doesn't, when you're playing with the recording, you can't exactly nuance the same way that you'd be able to if you were with the person in the same room. So that's some of the issues. One other thing I just realized is also our seniors have to do recitals, right? And those are usually in one of our smaller concert venues with an audience. This is something they've been preparing for 4 years. And the seniors who graduated last year and the students who are graduating this year and expecting to do their live senior recital that they've been working towards all this time, they probably won't get to do with an audience on campus. And have their friends and family cheering them on.
Yeah, Ellen, as an undergraduate advisor, can you tell us a little bit about what that role actually entails, and maybe a little bit about how you got into doing this?
Sure. So I was a music teacher for many years in the New Jersey Public Schools. I taught instrumental music. I majored in music ed, playing French horn as an undergraduate. So I taught for 15 years. And then I took some years off to have my babies, who are now grown-up men at this point. And then eventually I wanted to start working a little bit. So I had earned a graduate degree while I wasn't teaching in educational supervision. And I had a supervisor certificate, so I reached out to Rutgers and I started supervising music student teachers. And I did that for 5 or 6 years. It was pretty part-time. And then I did it for both music teachers and other teachers. But the person that I worked with in the music department, supervising music student teachers, let me know that a job had opened up in the Department of Music and he thought I'd be a good fit. And that's the job I have now. And the rest is history. So this is my 11th year in this job. So because I went to Rutgers and was supervising Rutgers student teachers, and because of my music background, it was sort of a really good fit.
No, it's great. Thank you.
Great. Do you still play?
1 second. Can you close that door, please? Sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Do you still play?
I haven't played for a really long time. So when you play the French horn, it's kind of like a runner. You can't not run for a month and then expect to run the same way. And same thing with the muscles of your embouchure. You kind of have to keep up, and I just haven't had the time. And you know, as a parent and working full time, I just it faded. So I haven't played for a really long time, and I do miss it. I do miss it. Yeah.
You know, like as we were scheduling this and seeing that you were in the music department, when you know everything came out that it was going to be remote again,
Yeah.
I kind of originally had thought how you were saying that like the social aspect of it is big, because I was thinking of like, oh, if I was in college I would have hated that if I had to do it from home. But the classes, I thought, I was like, oh well, my classes, I guess I could have really done them online, but I didn't really think about departments like music and probably like a lot of like the fine arts. Like John, I know that you were in the Mason Grove School. I'm sure like a lot of those kids who are doing like painting and things like that, like how do you submit a painting online?
Yeah.
It's just like for those kind of in-person things, it's probably, I don't know, just
I
like
mean,
so much
even
more challenging.
I think the visual arts are probably even a little bit easier than the performing arts. Like painting, photography, which is where I came from. A lot of the techniques and things can sort of translate over over virtual class, but how do you teach ballet and really pick up on the nuance of those moves? Or the same with instruments. It's that anything in the performing arts where it is all about the nuance has to be extremely difficult.
Yeah, very tough, and both musically and also socially. I got an email from a first year student a couple of weeks ago, and she said, how can I connect with my peers? I only see them in the little boxes on, Zoom meetings or WebEx in class. And this is somebody who is a singer, and, when they would have, under usual circumstances, been meeting each other in the choir rehearsals and in their other classes. I mean, the music department, they're very tight knit. They're all in the same classes together. They're in the same ensembles together. They hang out in the same buildings, and they're not getting any of that. So it's really been tough. But I think overall, I think we're managing really well. And, the professors, the staff, the instructors, the administration, they've really just worked so hard to just make it manageable for everybody and make it a good educational and good musical experience as best they can.
Zoom needs to figure out a way to get their acoustics to match that of a concert hall, and then maybe we would be moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
That's in the next patch.
We always have a first assembly meeting with all of the undergrads at the beginning of the semester, and that's over 200 students. It's about 225 students, and we meet all together. And it's been a tradition that I say, "Is it anybody's birthday?" And then we sing "Happy Birthday," whether it's somebody's birthday or not, just as a fun thing to do. And one of my colleagues plays the piano, and it's just fun to hear them sing, and they include all this elaborate harmony and so on. So we did that via Zoom, and I said, okay, how about if just a couple of voice majors sing? Because it's all out of sync, right? They said, no, let's just do it all together. So they did. Over 225 voices singing at 225 different times. But it was fun. It was fun, and we got to keep up the tradition.
I'm sure it still sounded better than when my family sings to me on my birthday. So.
I kind of think sometimes maybe how they say like struggle and tough times creates art, and I think maybe on the back end of this we'll have some sort of renaissance.
Yeah.
Of all that pent up energy and creativity that's sort of been restrained for a little time. Maybe all that'll come out.
Right. Yeah.
Just like the people who want to party.
Yeah. I think, for instance, our jazz department, they're taking the opportunity to really hone their recording skills and learn how to make, really good recordings. And they probably wouldn't have done that otherwise. And I think the students are really going to benefit from that because that's the wave of the future. They're going to need those skills. And they may not have necessarily had the time to do that otherwise. So they're taking advantage of this in good ways.
Right, that's a great point.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that wraps us up for episode 20. Ellen, thanks so much for joining us and for giving us your perspective. And we'll give you the last word if there's anything else that you'd like to say.
Just, stay safe, wear your mask, wash your hands, social distance, be well.
Thank you.
Sounds good to me.
Great.
All right.
Thank you very much.